Well, hello everybody. Welcome once again to Evening Qigong. And it's, getting darker. It's getting darker every week, isn't it? So I can still see light outside, but we know what's happening. Um, so with this class tonight, um, uh, my encouragement is for everyone, always with Qigong, is to make it your own. So we'll be doing some moves that you're familiar with and maybe a couple that you're not so much. And then we're going to have a period of practice where I'm not going to be talking much. And the encouragement is just at the beginning we imitate the teacher, but that we move in the spirit of Qigong. So um, let me talk about that just a minute. Uh, Actually, let me make it so you can see a little better. So the movements of Qigong are the way they are because the practice, uh, just like Taoism, um, it comes from nature. So we're moving, all of our movements, whether they're very slow or they're faster, are like the movements of fish in water or plants in the sea responding to the currents of the water, uh, trees moving in the wind, uh, clouds moving in the sky. The movements are rooted in nature. And the original, some of the original movements were the imitation of animals. Um, so, so there's the crane. The crane moves in a certain way, and there's the snake that moves as it does, and there's the bear. It's kind of what this is. The bear moves in a certain way. Um, and there's the deer and the monkey, and if you watch a cat move, it moves in the spirit of Qigong. Uh, my dog not so much, but um, so all the movements are going to be similar in those ways. And then the other part is that the movements are done with the mind and the body. So we're letting go of thinking, and the mind is in the body and beyond the body. So awareness of qi in the body requires a sensitivity to the presence of feeling, and awareness of qi beyond the body requires the addition of consciousness. And then cultivating or moving qi in the body requires the addition of consciousness as well. So all the movements are natural movements. They tend to be somewhat slow, graceful, and mindful. And so in that regard, um, there's a whole school of Qigong called spontaneous Qigong. And I don't introduce this right away, but when you're doing your practice, if let's say you're doing cloud hands and you're doing it in a certain speed, in a certain way with your breath. That's another thing. Movements are all coordinated with the breath. And then you just, you feel like sending that hand out, and then this kind of evolves into a bigger movement, or maybe it moves into We do this often where we reduce the movement becomes very fine, and then the movement becomes moving in stillness where it's just internal with the breath. But however we're doing it, um, my focus is to empower you. So I'm not interested in having just imitators, people imitating, because what I'm doing, is based on teachers and masters I studied with, but I'm sure I'm doing it differently because my body's different, my mind's different. Things change. So throughout this practice, you can watch me, and that's fine. Um, or you can go into your version of the movement. Does that make sense? You can also do qigong to music. I've done this a number of times. You can try it with different kinds of music that you like, and see how that affects your practice. So if you're doing it to some, rock music, that'll affect it that way. If you're doing it to some, maybe more chamber music or classical music, it'll affect it that way. But what the music is it's adding an element to the environment that we're then folding into whatever our movements are. So we're going with what there is. Okay? And the last thing I want to say about it is that it's traditionally practiced also outdoors. And when we're outdoors, our movements are going to reflect our environment. So when I was in California recently, I practiced by the ocean, and I was doing the ocean wave with the waves. And so then my consciousness, my awareness of my movements was simultaneous with the awareness of the waves. And if you're practicing by a big tree, that'll change it. So I just want to encourage you to make these practices your own. Okay? If we're teaching, that's a little different. We want to kind of adhere to the tradition to some extent, but you've all practiced a while, and make these your own. And you do that by feeling. Just feel how it is. Okay? So, okay. So let's go ahead and bow to the directions. First to the east. Do you want to put your hands together, or do you want to have them slightly apart? This is a decision, what feels right. Turning to the south. And we exhale as we fold down. West. Inhale as we come up. In the north. So time your bow, so exhale as you go down. Okay, these can be done energetically too. So up. Breath goes out. Okay, let's do that sequence one more time. And we're going to do it with more energy, whatever that means to you. We're going to bow the same 7 bows, but with more energy. Are you ready? So to the east. Still going with the breath. Okay. To the south. Okay, and to the west. Turning to the north. The north. Back to the screen. More energetically. Up. Down. Okay, so that didn't take a different amount, that didn't go faster. It took the same amount of time. It's just there was maybe the movements were quicker, but then the pause filled it in. Okay, now this time, let's do it more gently. So we're not taking more time, but we're just keep moving, don't stop. To the east, the movement just flows. Very slow, but very continuous, unbroken. So there's no pause. It's all just this slow, unbroken movement. Okay, very good. So those are just sort of three examples of what I mean by do this the way you feel. Okay, so we sort of do it the normal way, and we get into that rut, and we just always do it that way. Oh well, maybe this time that the slower one is called drawing silk. So the way you draw silk is very gradually, but you don't stop, because if you're jerky, then you'll break it. And then with a lot of energy, um, we can do these with a lot of energy and still be mindful and still move in a way that's Qigong. Okay? So let's go ahead and do Trembling Mountain. This is one where you really want to do this however it feels best to you. So you know it, you know the movement. It's just powered by the legs. So fast, slow, subtle, deep. You can add any kind of other movements you want. The only thing is to keep the feet on the ground. If you find yourself thinking, then do something different so that the mind is just in the body. We don't want any of these movements to just be habitual. They're reflecting your present moment. Okay, let's go for another minute. Okay. Now you can come to a sudden stop. First you can get real intense and come to a sudden stop, or you can stop gradually, whatever you feel like. And we're focusing on the out breath and letting go of the shoulders, letting go of the neck, any tension with the out breath. Okay, very good. Let's go into the two aspects of cloud hands. The first one is relating to the environment. The palm is up to the sky, down to the earth. And then do this one. You want to do it with your breath, but you could do 2 movements per breath, or 2 breaths per movement, 1 movement per breath. As long as you're aware of your breathing and moving in harmony with it in some way. And we want to come back to the palms, connection of the palms, but what the hands are expressing can be very big or small. You can turn the waist a lot. Just do this. Try doing this a little differently than what you've done before. And then whenever you're ready, no hurry, switch so that the palms are facing each other, and see what difference that makes in your movement. You can also add counting if you want to, counting to 4 and then repeating. You can also add a smile if you want to, the small smile. Okay, and then when you're ready, go ahead and segue this movement. And we're doing side to side with cloud hands. Let's segue it into up and down. So some version of touching heaven, touching earth. The hands are moving opposite now. This brief connection between the palms. Okay, now we can segue this into diagonal flying. So we've done side to side. We've done up and down, and now we can do diagonal. So the lower hand goes out front. You can do this with a lot of energy if you want. Really wind up, send that hands out. You can do it very gently. You just keep moving. You can do it very slowly if you want. At a certain point, we just let go of doing it right. We've internalized these movements. Very good. Just moving in this space around the body. Okay. And if you want to, you can continue that, or if you like, we can segue into this other part of touching heaven, touching earth. It's the opening to the sides. Emptying and filling. The hands really are agents of the breath. They're expressing the breath. Waking up, going to sleep. Expanding, compressing. All right, and if you want to, you can segue into flying crane. If you want to go up on one foot, that's fine. Just make this your own. Okay, very good. Now this has all been in the area around the body. Now let's go into Qigong, directing Qi within the body. So starting with your dominant hand, point to the earth, point to the body, straight up the center line, inside of the spine, skull, out the top, point to the heavens, come down the inside front of the body, all the way down, down to the earth, switch hands. And do this in a way where you can actually feel that subtle pressure of the finger pointing and the eyes looking inside the body. And switch hands. Do this very slowly or faster. If you want to, you can add the other hand at the same time. So one's coming up, one's going down, or just stay with the one. And you can turn the body. Bring the attention down to the earth, bringing it up, inside the body, moving through the body, out the top, and down. Again, you can do this faster or very slowly. Whatever gives you the most feeling, internal feeling. You can expand the movements or reduce them. Okay, now let your hands go and let them do any of the movements we've done or any movement that they would like to do that feels good, any movement that feels good. As long as it's with the breath, fast or slow. Just enjoy the sensations, the body moving in the Qigong dance in harmony with the breath. Okay, let's reduce the movements. Okay, when you're ready, let's just return to standing. And then let the body fill and empty with the breath. Maybe a little movement of the hands and the arms. And let's bring the hands opposite the lower dantian. And then let them expand away with the in-breath. And come back with the out-breath. And the whole body expands. Body gets taller with the in-breath, a little shorter with the out-breath. Expands outward in all directions. The eyes may be open wide with the in-breath, then close a bit with the out-breath. Okay, very good. And if you like, you can move your hands to the middle dantian. Same practice. And let's use the mind and expand out big in all directions, way beyond the body. You can do this on the out breath or the in breath. Or both. And we can feel the body moving, and we can, our attention is also all around the body. Particularly behind. Okay, very good. We're going to move the hands up. Move to the crown of the head. And again, move the breath. Opening the crown of the head. Using the eyes. Okay, so let's continue for a couple of minutes, and you can do the top of the head or the heart area, the lower dantian, whichever you feel like. And we're in harmony with the waves of the breath. We're in harmony with coming and going, with birth and death, with form and boundlessness. We're moving the breath, the whole body, internally, externally. We're moving with the flow of life force energy, or one with it. And it's really moving us. do this vigorously, do this slowly, however you wish, because the chi is moving in many different ways. Okay, very good. Let's slowly reduce the movements. Okay, and then when you're ready, let's go ahead and bring up our stool. And just allow your body to be comfortable. And the breath will slow down. And the breath will become long, slow, even, and fine. If you like, following the breath, you can remember, this is body memory, you can remember or visualize any of the movements that we've done and allow them to take on a life of their own. They can, since the body is still, they can expand infinitely out. The arms can get very, very long. The body can get diffuse, very, very big, or it can be concentrated, very small. It can be connected to other beings. Just use the breath and the memory of the movements to combine with your imagination. You may want to add light or color or sound. Keep the chin tucked. Feel free to move your body a little if you need to. Okay, let's take a few more breaths. The physical sensation of qi, of tingling, or of the sense of the body, that tingling quality um, that we feel, it translates into a luminosity in our imagination. So if we see, imagination is seeing in the mind. So that feeling of energy in the body um, traditionally is translated as light or luminosity in the mind. So that's the light body or the energy body. That's why the practice is breathing the stars, because that starlight is like that luminous space. Okay, and let's go ahead and move a little bit. Okay, very good. So I hope this encourages you, if you're practicing at home or somewhere else, um, do what feels right. You've got the basics. You know how these movements feel. And do what feels right. Okay, now let's go ahead and do our closing. 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, thank you so much for your presence and for your practice. And now we can go into our conversation, or you can gently drift off, whichever you prefer. Okay, let's get everybody on here. There, good. Okay. Okay, so please feel free to do any of these practices in the way that's right for you, and at that moment, in that place, whatever's going on for you. Like I said, I think you know the basics. You know how it feels, and try it if you can in different places, like particularly outdoors, and see how that affects. So, any comments, questions about any of this?